Okay. This is the drawing of our birds. Right now, you need it mostly to understand the sizes of some of the areas because you're going to make paper, 140-pound paper, colors and textures and pretty things with playing with the watercolor, which you may discover some things about your watercolors that you hadn't noticed before that you can do something with later. And if you have extras of the papers left over, you may have other things that you do with them someday, like the next time we collage. And also, you may find that you're trading back and forth with other people for little scraps of this or that. We'll just see what happens. Okay. Here are the birds for color and, reference. So we're gonna make some papers, and I have some examples here and some not examples. I think this is really pretty. I think this is really pretty. I think it's kind of too light for limbs, although maybe for parts of the limbs I might use that, because my intention is that we're not going to like cut out a strip and that's the limb. We're going to tear pieces and we're going to patch them together to make the limb. And that's what's really where I think collage gets really beautiful, because it's sort of fractured where the pieces are, go together, kind of like a quilt. And that gives it that certain something that is similar, in my mind, to when Shirley Trevina paints something. Hers has that kind of broken up feel to it. Okay, so back to making some papers. So you can see that this was done with the saran wrap. Here's just some brown that I put out, and I used a stencil to put a little bit of pattern in it. This is...
I have stencils.
Okay, good. I brought one. I have
I have a bunch.
Here are two layers of red and a yellow that dried first, and then I put another yellow and a cerulean on top of it, and you see all these beautiful things that happen underneath that would never happen if you had it all mixed together. And see, that can make some gorgeous pieces of things. So that's what you're looking to do, is have some interesting textures and color and, pieces. So you can see how I might make a tree using parts of this and maybe a little bit of this and maybe some of that, to get some of my branches, for instance. So, I thought this would be really good on the bird's chest, maybe. Some of the teeny pieces, I think, like these wonderful little flowers or berries or whatever they are, hole punch. That's why I said you might at some point, not today obviously, but you might at some point, even clumsy people like me, want to bring in a pair of tweezers. Just for some of those last, because you're going to work from large to small.
Okay.
You can work from dark to light or light to dark, however you want to do it with an area. But you're getting me in the picture.
Yeah.
Thank you. But you're going to want to you're going to work. You are going to want to work mostly from large to small. Okay, so. I was just going to do a couple of spots just to get you involved here. One of the problems is you're going to want some light. You're going to want some pieces that are light. And by the way, you may have some bits of old paintings that are going to work for some of this. Somebody might even want to put red berries in here or something. You're not stuck with any certain way. And this is something where you can arrange it kind of like puzzle pieces and play with it and move them around before you stick them down, So I think this is this may be my next life's work is making these. So, am I in the? Okay, I'm in the frame here. So the thing is that one of the things you want to do is you want really. Oh, I told you to wet down your paints. I didn't wet mine down, but mine are pretty pretty
You want
moist
spray?
already. Huh?
Do you want some spray?
No, I'm doing this. This will work. So I used a lot of cerulean in here because, and this is ultramarine. I scraped on this one. So there's just all kinds of things you could try. You could use salt, of course. Sometime you might want to put some water down first. Maybe not everywhere, just to create a little extra possibility of texture. You can mix your color down here. You don't need to pre-mix it. I mean, you might want to occasionally, but maybe, oh. So isn't it fun just to watch? And see, there's some strong paint in here because I just took it directly out of the well. Look at what's happening there. So then if I wanted to turn that into a green, that's just... So I love cerulean, and cerulean granulates a lot. Look at those little dry spots there. But I'm going to kill them. But the point is, the point is that you can kind of discover things that you might enjoy doing with watercolor in the future that you haven't been doing, maybe because you've been just a little bit more careful, and you're trying to do what you see me doing in class, and and when you could be having this adventure. Okay, so I'm going to make some things happen like that. And I might decide that I like this just like it is. Or I might decide to throw some salt on it or use some saran wrap. Huh?
Alcohol? Did you use
Oh, I
alcohol?
brought alcohol. So here's the thing about using alcohol. Children.
Yes,
Uh,
mother.
Yeah, and that is, don't put your good brush end in here. I'm using the back end of the brush, but now one of the things is that when you use alcohol to get texture, in the future, if you lay more color on top, those areas that had the alcohol on them will absorb more of the paint. So I can actually get a different effect with the alcohol just by putting another layer of color on after this is totally dry. But you can see that it makes a few little spots in there. You don't want them everywhere because if they're everywhere, they're nowhere, right? So
are you picking colors that you think are going to go on there? Or you just kind of making
I am making
stuff?
some greens,
Okay.
and my greens may not match those greens. Quite frankly, I might want a little bit more in the way of leaves, and I may want them to have a little. I want some spring variety greens, but I'd like a little bit of blue greens in there too at some point. I think, you know what? I think I'll see now it's looking a little dull as it starts to dry, and I might want to come in. Well, I said that would. Oh, there we go. See, that's going to take. Well, the blue's doing funny things. So, because I want more greens, I'm doing that. And you can see I'm dipping in here and getting rich color. Now, one of the reasons we want to do this first before we even worry about tracing the base or anything, because for one thing, it's got to dry before you go home because you can't leave these spread out everywhere. So, that's it. I don't know where that's going to go, but I guarantee you I'm going to use it, So, like I said, you could use alcohol. You could use nothing. This is a brown that's got the cerulean on top of it. And because it's cerulean, see how light cerulean is in here? It's got a little bit of opacity. And so by putting it on really strong and rich on top, it kind of, even though the underneath is darker, I've actually got, kind of a lighter area there. So different things can happen. Like I said, if you get one and it's a little too boring, you could throw a little stenciling over it. You could just rake your Mr. Magic sponge around in there and lighten it or play with it. There's all kinds of things you can do. So I want you to have a good time experimenting. You need to at least fill 2 sheets like this. Remember though, if you don't like one side, you can always do the other side, or you can have 2 sides. The problem being you might have to choose between favorites because, you know. So that's really, does anybody got questions about where we're going with this?
I do. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yes, no.
So today, this is what we're going to be doing.
This is
in total.
majorly what we're going to be doing,
Okay.
and I'll see how far we get.
And then we're not going to do any painting of that picture. It's all going to be collage.
Okay, eventually you can paint on top of your collage because this is watercolor, good watercolor paper.
Okay.
So you may very well, once you assemble it, find that you are going back and watercoloring some areas or lifting some areas, doing things to it. This is not going to be just your finished product, although it could be. Just depends on, you the artist when you reach that point. So the thing is, like on these branches, there's one thing I'll tell you about the branches because I think that will help you. Can you set that over there? It's just running everywhere. So on these branches, these are kind of long, but you don't have to do the full length of the branch. But what I do suggest is that, we'll just talk about tearing this stuff. This tears pretty nicely when it's dry, but it has to be really, really dry. And it's not like you need all torn edges. You may want some cut edges. So as I'm tearing this, okay, let's just, I have to get off the frame here, but there. Okay, so I've got a piece like this, for instance. Well, I've got that. Now I could color that, or I can just tear it backwards. You can see that the other side doesn't have that. So you could also work like, maybe I can't work like that. I kind of have something bigger to get hold of. But I could color that, or I could cut it off with scissors, or I could, maybe I need a white spot, or maybe I need a white spot. So the thing is, when you're building this up, you may very well have, oh, gee, that kind of fits right there. And then, so if you have some diagonally torn paper on these limbs, that may go together a little better than if you have them cross-cut coming up. But remember that you don't have to have a long piece here made as you're making your pieces. In fact, I think it's better if it's built in pieces because that gives you that variety. So, but I did want to point that out. Another question?
You had a question? You answered the one that.
Oh.
I do have a question.
Okay.
So, on the picture,
Uh-huh.
will we paint the background, or are we doing anything for the
I
background?
thought we probably would put just a real light wash back there. And then later, if you want to add to it, you can. But I think that you probably, because this is going to be fairly busy, I think that you're going to want something pretty plain and very light back there.
Right.
It could even be left white, but, that's just an individual choice.
What, are you gonna show us how you're gonna do all that straw and grass later?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I
I'm
actually
not
had a
rushing you.
piece because you could cut some strips, and
Okay.
look, somebody is going to make that 3-dimensional and make them stick out. I don't know. My thought was that you could also use some. You could also use a little bit of masking. Put a layer down. It's got something really wet in here somewhere.
Grass stuff at home.
Yeah, well, I figured somebody
I
would
was
think
gonna
to
think
do
that
that.
packing.
Yeah.
whatever that's called, so.
Oh, yeah, okay. So there are other possibilities with this, but I did think that you could start with a light layer, do a little bit of masking and build up too, but you don't want it to just be flat. You want some pieces on top. So we'll get to that. And when we get to these little parts, we'll see what we can do. But that's one of the reasons I made this as large as I did, is because it's going to be easier to work with, and because I think it's going to be gorgeous. So.